Alright, now I want to go over some of the parts and pieces of the serger, especially the ones that need special attention. And some of the parts on the serger need to be set up properly to avoid damaging your serger. I'm going to start with this part right here. You can see I can telescope it down, I can telescope it up. This is the thread antenna. Now what I want you to notice here, see how rickety it is? This is not what you want for an antenna. The antenna needs to be firmly seated in the machine, and if it's not, you need to go in there and you need to tighten it. You can screw it tight simply by turning it in the clockwise position. So I'm just going to turn this, okay, and then you'll notice that once it's in a stable position, see I'm wiggling it now, and I mean it jiggles because I'm jiggling it, but it's now firmly on my serger, it's not moving around. So you can usually turn it or twist it in the base. Usually it's attached to the thread stand in the back of your serger. Just twist it and just make sure it's firmly attached. So I just rotated this whole thing clockwise to keep it from jiggling around. Now you may notice that my thread guide over here is broken, and so this is one of the things I want to talk about right out of the gate. When you are serging, this antenna needs to be fully in the up position, and you want to make sure that the thread is seated directly under the thread guide on the antenna and then comes down to the tension, because if the thread gets caught or jammed, what can happen is it can pull down on this until it snaps, and that's exactly what happened to me. I was serging 1,000,000 miles a minute and I wasn't paying attention. My thread got caught, and because of the force of the machine feeding the thread through and creating the stitch, it snapped my antenna. Now that's a very sad situation, because I went to replace the antenna and they wanted $125. So clearly I didn't replace it because I didn't want to spend $125. But please make sure your telescoping antenna is up all the way, because the same thing can happen if you don't have the clearance between these thread guides and the pre-tension thread guides back here. You want to make sure that your cones of thread are directly under whatever thread guide you're going to use. Okay. Now you may also notice, and this is probably less likely a troubleshooting issue for most people, because I have a lot of big heavy equipment in my room, and I actually dropped my, you can see right here I have a jib that my over the head camera is on. It tipped over when I was trying to pull it forward, and it smashed off one of my spool pins right here. So that's kind of sad for me, because you know I can still use it, but I always have to be mindful of my spool of thread on this spool pin, because it only goes up halfway, because I chopped off the top of it with my jib. So make sure when you store your serger it's not near anything that can fall on it, because these will snap off if you happen to drop something on it. So be careful with these. Obviously, you know, you want those to be available to use, but I really just wanted to give special attention to this antenna, because it's really critical to how your thread feeds through your machine, and you want to make sure it's not wobbly.